happy Thursday. Welcome to the Art of Senior Fitness Program Design Part 2. I'm joining a little bit early today because the last couple weeks we've had some technical difficulties. So I'm gonna just check all my platforms in the first couple minutes before we get going, and hopefully we will be able to avoid all of that today. So if you're joining me for lunch, grab your food. You've got a couple of minutes. If you're joining me for your morning coffee, get that coffee nice and warm, and let's get ready for a little 30 minutes of some Art of Senior Fitness Program Design. If you've only just joined because you heard the little notification that said Emily is now live. This is for anyone who works with seniors or wants to, and in any capacity. Okay, so not just if it's in a fitness setting. Feel free to join us if you oversee a team who does recreation or fitness or any of the others. So LinkedIn is good today. Yes, let's check Facebook and see if Facebook is working. I don't see Facebook working, but I've been told that it is working behind the scenes. So hopefully all is well today. Yes, all right, live on both platforms. I did it, yay, a little celebration there. And then also recording as well in case we need to repost the recording. So welcome everyone. Officially it is 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 Mountain, 9:30 Pacific. So we're going to get going here. And this is part 2 of the Art of Senior Fitness Program Design. So if you didn't join us last week, I'm going to do a bit of a recap at the start here, but I do encourage you check out the LinkedIn and Facebook pages for Stronger You Senior Fitness, and you can catch yourself up on what we talked about last week. Okay. So as I said, we'll start with just a quick recap here. Last week, I really wanted to start by challenging you to think about your thoughts in terms of aging and exercise and some of the common myths and misconceptions. So last week we debunked, I'm too old, I have a chronic condition, it could be dangerous. We really debunked all those, and we talked about how at any age exercisers can see gains similar to younger exercisers, and if you have a chronic condition, exercise is probably one of the best things you can do, but of course please check with your doctor prior to participating, because you never know, there could be certain instances where the doctor gives you some limitations. We also spent the bulk of our time talking about Canada's physical activity guidelines. So I know many of you can rattle off Canada's physical activity guidelines, but it was the nitty-gritty little details that we went through. And what we did last week was a fit audit. So we talked about the frequency, intensity, time, and type associated with each of the guidelines, Canada's physical activity guidelines. And so maybe some of you had some learnings from that last week. Maybe you realize, hey, I offer 150 minutes of physical activity, but once I got into the nitty-gritty of all of the different items, you may have seen that in fact you have some areas where you can improve. So again, just checking, and we are for once actually working on all platforms. That's wonderful. I wish I could take the camera and then show you what the setup looks like on my end. I've got 2 monitors, I've got an iPad and a phone, all to make this come to you today. So really happy that it's working. Now, to jump into our topic for today, we are talking about multi-dimensional fitness experiences. And I love this topic because fitness isn't just fitness. There are so many other benefits to being physically active. And I know across all organizations, some of the main priorities are keeping the older adults you work with physically healthy. There's that physical aspect, but also intellectually sharp, emotionally engaged, socially connected. There's all these big bucket items that we're all discussing and talking about how important they are. And many times you'll see organizations trying to have many different initiatives in order to check off each of these boxes. But what I want to explore with you today is that you don't need many initiatives. You could just have one really great senior fitness program, and you're going to see over the next 25 minutes now, how we can check all those boxes for you. So we'll start by talking about the 7 dimensions of wellness. And this is a concept that more and more in the fitness and recreation space are becoming familiar with. Excuse me, let me get a drink here. All right. This is a concept people are getting more and more familiar with in the fitness and recreation space. And the 7 dimensions of wellness are listed there on your screen. So intellectual, physical, social, spiritual, vocational, or sometimes purposeful, occupational. It goes by a few different names, emotional. And then the 7th kind of newly one that more and more are talking about is the environmental dimension of wellness. So what I'd like to do is go through all 7 of these dimensions of wellness, and we're going to talk about tips and tricks and things to do to hit all of those bucket items, not just the physical benefits. So today, as we're going through, please feel free to comment and let me know if you have any really great things that are happening in your organizations in terms of activating each of these dimensions of wellness, so we can share best practices amongst ourselves here. So today we're going to start with the intellectual dimension of wellness. Research is more and more showing proof that we can see a lot of benefits by doing physical activity for our brain. And really for older adults, this is becoming a top priority. There was a poll conducted in the United Kingdom that showed that people are now more afraid of getting dementia and Alzheimer's than they are of getting cancer. So for each of us, I think we really we pride ourselves in the fact that we can be, intellectual thinkers and contributors, and a lot of people are really afraid of what might happen to them and what their life might become if they are no longer able to remember the things they want to do or express themselves in the way that they want to express themselves. And if we look at exercise, again, the brain and the body are not separate. When you get physically active, and we talked about this in last week's session, the brain starts to come alive. And at the beginning of last week's session, I challenged you and asked you to join me in some fitness movements, because that really does, get the body going, the brain going and moving in order to help you tackle those intellectual challenges even better. And there's a study that I love, and I want to bring that up right now to just kind of illustrate my point. And it's a group who takes part in a strength and aerobic based program, and there's another group who take part in a stretching program. And at the end of the study, they take a look at the size of the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is involved in information processing and memory, and they found that there was almost a 2% increase in brain mass of the hippocampus in the aerobic and strength conditioning group versus the group that was just doing stretching alone. They actually saw a 1.4% decrease in the stretching group. So I love that study because it really illustrates how if you're trying to improve concentration, improve information processing, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to be engaged in physical activity. And further to that, improving concentration, information processing, and memory is all those wonderful things that you're going to see as part of intellectual programming. So how can we incorporate a really thoughtful, purposeful intellectual component into our fitness class? So I can't tell you how many fitness classes I've seen where the instructor, although well-meaning, is kind of giving instructions and kind of just waiting for the exercise to be done. So they might say, right shoulder roll, and then they're just being quiet as they roll the right shoulder back, and then bicep curl, and they're just being quiet again as they do the bicep curl. So what I want to talk about is incorporating some things that will not only make your program a little more fun and interesting, but also purposefully engage the brain. So some things you can do is incorporating brain and memory games. So an example of that is languages. I've seen lots of instructors, those who speak different languages or who have participants who speak different languages, incorporate learning those languages into their counting. So instead of counting in English, they're counting in all those different languages that they know and that their participants know. The alphabet game is one that I really like to use as part of my program. And so with this, let's say you're doing something like a warm-up where you're marching, you're doing heel digs, you're getting the body ready for the work. And instead of just being quiet and marching away and waiting for that time to tick past, you can actually do a game where you go around in your circle or in your rows, whatever it might be, and you're going to pick a theme. The theme might be countries, it might be girls' names, boys' names. I've done fruits and vegetables, cars, states. The list can really go on and on. And what you do is you go around the circle and you name things that go according to the alphabet. So, for example, fruits and vegetables, apricot, banana, carrot, going through, and it really takes your mind off of the work as well, which is really great. And you can kind of have that group coming together, helping one another, having a bit of a good laugh. Another one that's good for a good laugh is tongue twisters. So for example, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear, Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very, very fuzzy, was he? So maybe some of you remember saying that as a kid. A lot of the older adults I work with have memories of saying tongue twisters. And again, you're making those connections in your brain. You're taking your brain off the work, but you're getting that intellectual engagement, and it's helping you to continue on with whatever move you're doing. And further to that, if you're starting to incorporate things like heel digs and kicks and changing arms, and you're doing two things at once, you're doing hand movements and you're having them maybe learn a brand new tongue twister, then that is even more brain and information processing required. So you're really going to see those benefits. Counting is another one that I've always done. I don't know about you, I'm not the best when it comes to math, and so even something as simple as doing a physical movement and counting up to 100 by sevens, it can be pretty challenging, especially if you're starting to mix up what it is you're doing with your arms and legs at the same time as having to count according to those sevens, and then or by eights or nines or whatever, and then count back down even can be quite tricky. Or just picking a random number saying we're going to count by sevens, but we're going to start at 13. So not something that people maybe have memorized as well. So they have to really think about that. And then also just the movement combinations that you do. So I think last week when we started, I had you do some funky combinations that were getting your brain movement. But another example of that would be a biceps curl. So if I'm doing a biceps curl and I'm going to just do a curl like so, or if I say we're going to do 4 moves, we're going to do a lateral arm raise, then we're going to do a raise to the front, then we're going to do a curl and a hammer curl with our hand to the side. So when we incorporate combinations like that, again, we're really having to use our brains to remember what the combination is, what movement comes next, and again, a lot more interesting than just doing a bicep curl for 10 repetitions as well. So that's intellectual. That's one I could talk about for a really long time. I could probably do a whole hour on intellectual and getting that in, but definitely start with some of those and let me know how that goes for you. And again, just going to check and see how we're doing. Perfect. Still live on both platforms. Let's continue. Next is the social dimension of wellness. So this one's really big. Lots of benefits of being socially active, including stronger immune system, better mental health, increased feelings of well-being, decreased depression, and we will see that just the act of coming together for group fitness has an inherently natural social component to it. We'll start to see the groups going after class for a smoothie or a coffee or whatever it might be, and really building those social connections. But to make it even more purposeful versus just being in a group, having that group work to a common goal. Let's say it's a walking group and the walking group together wants to get to a certain amount of steps or laps or length of time, or maybe it's a strength class and you're trying to the whole group is trying to increase their weight by 1 pound, or they're trying to increase the number of repetitions of sit-to-stands, or the whole group being able to do sit-to-stands without hands. So these are all things you can incorporate where we're working to a common goal and we're celebrating it. Another big one is laughter. There's a lot of research that says that shared experience, shared laughter, and actually shared experience, whether it's positive or negative, has really good relationship building properties to it. And so if you have two people who really hate exercise, sit them next to each other, let them look at each other and go, oh gosh, is this what this instructor is doing again? You're going to see that they're probably going to continue to come back to that class, because it's almost like a support group for the two individuals who maybe hate exercise but continue to come for one another. You can also incorporate partner work and teams, and that's something we'll do in a later session down the road, as I want to show you some really awesome things you can do in partners and teams. And it could be just as simple as looking over at your partner at the beginning, or looking at your neighbor at the beginning of class and make sure your neighbor's ready. Good, cross-check. I take a lot of flights, so I'm always hearing the flight attendant say cross-check. That could be cross-check, make sure no one's gonna trip over their weights or their ball or their band or whatever it is. Wish them a good class, and let's start. And that's a lot of fun. The emotional dimension of wellness. So once again, last week we talked about the fact that when you exercise, we have hormones, endorphins specifically, that are released, and these will just help you have mood boosting effects, increased energy. Even when you feel sluggish and tired, you want to try to get to that exercise program, because you probably will feel better afterwards. You'll also sleep better, because let's face it, you did some work, you're going to be tired. And then especially when we look at things like goal setting, or even just getting to class, we have that improved self-esteem and confidence that we achieved something that we set our mind out to. A few other ways to naturally incorporate the emotional dimension into fitness is music. Music is incredibly emotional, and it can make you laugh, cry, angry, depending on the song that you're using. And again, research is showing us that having music as part of a fitness program actually helps individuals to exercise for longer at higher intensities, because they have all these positive feelings associated with the program and with the fitness. Versus if it was just quiet, it's basically you're just counting down the seconds almost in your mind to when is this going to be over. So I definitely encourage you to give music a try. And I also mentioned goal setting already, but it's a new year. A lot of people are doing this. I do hear from a lot of older adults that, oh no, I don't do that anymore. But let's encourage them this year. What do you want to, what are your physical goals? What are your just goals in general? Like I said, it could be to get those sit-to-stands without the arms. It could be to walk a little bit further. It could be just to make it to class three days out of the week, and then to celebrate those goals. I've seen groups take like a cutout of a sneaker, or even just a blank piece of paper, and have the participants write their goals on and put them up on the wall for everyone to see. And when someone gets that goal, it is a celebration. We are celebrating that person for what they've been able to achieve, and we're helping push them towards the goal as well. Also, taking your water bottle, and so all participants should have a water bottle. Let's start there, and putting like a piece of tape on it, or taping a piece of paper that says your goal. And every time you bring that water bottle with you to class, you're reminded of, that's my goal. And it's another good trick to your class to say, hey, did anyone forget their water bottle? Say, who doesn't have a water bottle? Let's make sure, the dollar store, let's get you a water bottle of some sort to write your goal on. Then the spiritual dimension of wellness. So spirituality and religion can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but across all different denominations and beliefs, spirituality of any kind does seem to be linked to a lower heart rate, reduce blood pressure, reduce stress. And if we look at maybe why that might be, most times there's a component of purposeful breathing, mindfulness. You can see the photo of the woman, she's praying or she's meditating. It's that bringing of yourself in and doing that introspection, that thoughtfulness. Again, you can incorporate this into any program. At the beginning or at the end or even throughout, you might take some purposeful breathing breaks. And I'll actually just encourage you to join me right now, because if it's Thursday, maybe the week hasn't gone by as you might have thought, or if you're watching this later, that's great. But I just want you to join me. We're going to take 4-second deep breath in, hold for 2, and then we're going to breathe out for 4. Okay, give that a go. So when you breathe in, good, let's do one more. Breathing in. Excellent. So hopefully just even 2 breaths like that, you're already feeling calmer. Let's say you're bringing your group through a really awesome cardio warm up, and then before you get into your strength training, maybe that's a great time to take a few purposeful breaths. Really allow that belly and chest to expand and feel the openness, and then just let it all go. Maybe with it, you're letting go of any tension, stress, negativity, whatever it might be. And mindfulness. So this works great at the end of your class after you've done your stretch, maybe taking some breathing. You can do a mindfulness meditation or guided relaxation practice, and that could be just a body scan. So sometimes you can have your group sit in the chair or lie on the floor and just do a scan of their body, and just starting from the crown of the head and just looking and feeling for sensations. And there doesn't have to be sensations. It might be lack of sensation, it might be tingling, it might be pain, but you just using that and going through and just paying attention to really all of our bodies. You can also do guided relaxations around things like gratitude or thanks, all sorts of things. You could take a guided relaxation or visualization through a beautiful crisp winter scene or a forest or down by the beach, and you can have your participants just visualize these things and the feelings they have there, or going to your happy place, going to the place where you feel most safe and visualizing that. So that's something super easy to add into your program at the end. It's a really great time. Okay. And next we've got vocational. So as I said, this one's sometimes called vocational, occupational, purposeful, community engagement, lots of names for this one. But really it's that sense of purpose, that sense of being part of something greater than yourself. And when we have that sense of purpose, it's been shown that we have a lower risk of developing stroke, heart attack, heart disease, a whole host of other things. You can often see it when people retire. If they don't have great hobbies to go to, then sometimes they feel like, well, I'm just sort of sitting around here, watching TV or not doing much. And for some, that's what you want to do, and you've got lots of joy in that, and that's great. But for others, and we see this quite often, I see it especially with the seniors I work with, they want to continue to contribute. So a few ways to incorporate this into your fitness program is as ambassadors. So give those people who've been coming to your fitness class a job, a role. It could be chair setup, handing out the water, welcoming new participants. In a senior living setting, it could be going to their suite to pick them up for class. In a community setting, it could be waiting for them in the lobby and then heading over to the fitness room together. And you will find people become really committed to their roles, no matter how small they are. And an example I have of this is I had a senior who used to help me to put out the water at the beginning of class. And anytime she had a doctor's appointment and she wasn't going to be in class, she always came to me and she always said, Emily, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to do the water today, but I'm going to be back tomorrow. And I loved that, because for me to put out the water is not a big deal. Easy. But for her, it was just so meaningful. Like she was almost coming to my class just because she wanted to hand out the water, not necessarily for the exercise, although she exercised amazing and had a lot of fun with that too. But excuse me, that can really be powerful for someone and very impactful. And to even take it a step further, things like name tags, t-shirts, recognizing them at volunteer appreciations, that just takes it the next step. I've seen so many older adults who they get their name tag and they just love it. It's very official, where they've got their ambassador t-shirt, and I've seen groups as well where you have to come to the fitness class for so many times in order to earn your t-shirt as well. So even if it's not an ambassador situation, but it's a community situation as well, things like t-shirts are a really great tool to use for that as well. And then the environmental dimension of wellness. So this is one that more and more are starting to realize the importance of. And we know, again, from the research that being in nature helps to boost energy. It can improve your immune system. It enhances your creativity. I'm sure you've said this yourself. You've heard someone else say this, but if I spend a long day outside and I come in and I'm tired, I always say, oh, it must have been all that good fresh air that makes you tired or makes you invigorated. Whatever it might be. So maybe not now, because I know across the country, especially here in Calgary, it's really cold. So you're not doing any exercising outdoors maybe right now. But, once the weather gets warm, saying, hey, class, we're just going to head outside today. We're going to bring our chairs, our weights, our bands. We're going to exercise in the beauty that is nature. Walking groups, again, not something you can maybe implement right now, but going for walking groups. And, even when the weather is maybe still cold, but not so cold as it tends to be right now across Canada, but having winter outdoor walking groups. A lot of parks and cities and towns are doing a really good job of making sure things are paved paths, so they're very safe, and then making sure they're also shoveled and plowed, so people can safely navigate them in the winter as well. Forest bathing, if you haven't heard of that, basically it's just immersing yourself in a forest, just sitting on a bench amongst the trees, in a park. Again, just really, really great benefits. And that could be that you have a trip or an excursion out to a local park, and you guys are just going to sit, and maybe you have a meditation planned, and you're just going to take in the beautiful benefits of the oxygen that those trees are pumping out, or the sounds, the sensations. It can be a really great experience. And big supporter of walking trips where you go to a different local park. Again, as I said, so many municipalities are working hard to make beautiful parks for the people who live in those towns and cities. So take advantage of it. Go there, have a picnic, have some outdoor games, work on that coordination, that balance, and have a beautiful walking experience. Because again, you might have people who don't like exercise, but they love outdoors. They love the parks. So that actually is a great segue into how you market your fitness programs according to the people you're speaking to. And so I'm going to talk about Margaret here. Margaret's a fictional individual, but let's say Margaret is a 86-year-old retired teacher. Now, if Margaret walks into my community center or retirement community or wherever, my fitness class, and she says, "Hi, I'm Margaret. I don't really like to exercise, but I had a fall recently, so my doctor, my family said I should get exercising, but I really like to be, I like to read, I really like to be intellectually engaged, so I'm just kind of scoping out fitness classes to see what's the right one for me." Now, when someone like that says something to you like that, and that can be any iteration, that could be, Margaret told me she likes to be social. Margaret likes to help others. Margaret likes to be artistic. Whatever it is, it's important to focus in on what's meaningful to that person. Now, stay with me on this next one, this next example. I think I heard this in a sales training at one point, and it was talking about how sometimes if we focus in on the wrong detail, you can really turn off that person. And even though it might be the detail for you, which you think is the most impactful, for them, it might be like, wow, no, if that's what's going on in this, I don't want to be involved in that. And the example I'll use is, let's say I'm talking to my brother and he's not single, but for argument's sake, let's say he's single. And I'm going to say, hey, Luke, I've got this gorgeous friend that you just absolutely have to meet. You're going to love her. She has a mole right on her face. And you're thinking, what? That's a really weird thing to say when you are trying to describe someone. And the reason I say that, and I'll reveal to you, kind of long story short, the beautiful person I'm talking about is Cindy Crawford. And if you don't know Cindy Crawford, Google her, beautiful actress and model. And yes, she has a mole on her face, but that does not take away from her beauty whatsoever. And the reason I say that is because if you're talking to someone like Margaret, who values intellectual programming or social programming or creative programming, and you talk about how the instructor is going to give you the best workout of your life, you're going to be sweating, you're going to be getting, just such a great workout, Margaret might be thinking, oh my gosh, that is not for me. But if you talk about how the instructor purposefully builds in intellectual combinations, intellectual challenges into the program so she can not only get physically strong, but stay intellectually strong as well, you're going to have Margaret sold on that. So that's really important. Maybe it's they like music. Okay, they hate exercise, but they like music. Join us for this program because we have really, really great music. So that's your kind of takeaways for today. That's lunch or your break. So some thoughts for the day. Just taking a look here. I think we've got a comment here. Oh, you're welcome, Indira. Thank you so much. So as you watch, if you want to leave a comment with any of your best practices, please do. And I can respond to them as they come in. If you have any questions, any feedback, any future sessions you'd like to see, please feel free to email me at emily@strongeryouSeniorFitness.com. Next week, we are here on Friday at 12:30 Eastern, 10:30 Mountain, and 9:30 Pacific versus Thursday. So have a wonderful rest of your week and your day, and we will see you again. Thank you so much, everyone.